Shalom Israel, with the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Start at the 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commander in General Yohana. We are not affiliated with any other Israelite group nor any other Christian organization. All right, tonight's class is the history class. All right, tonight's class is the history class. The history class is something very, very important to understand. All right, or very important to come to. Like, we need to know history. Like, we need to absolutely understand what history is all about. All right, so we need to understand that. So now, tonight's class is going to be a very important class. We're going to focus on Psalms 83. All right, everyone, go with Rashad in the room. Don't even worry about it. Everybody in the room. All right? No sweat. Come on now. The minute I start the class, y'all want to get loud. Come on. Everybody lay down in the room. Everybody in the bed. Everyone lay down. Lay down. Come on. Look. Y'all put the pen on. All right. So now tonight's class is a very important class. We're going to be in Psalms 83. All right, so lucky about that. We're going to be in Psalms 83. All right, now remember, the history class is something very important to attend. All right? All right? So lucky about that. So Psalms 83. So remember, the history class is something very, very important to attend and to come to. All right? Without knowing our history, we're not going to know who we are. It's very important for all so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans to understand history, to understand the biblical history, you understand? Like, if we do not know the history in the Bible, then we are not going to know who we are. Like, the history in the Bible is a part of our culture. It's a part of our heritage. It explains and tells us who we are. The Wadagwa. It's very important to understand who we are. And the only way to understand who we are is to go into the Old Testament and to go into the Bible from front and back, from Genesis and to Revelation, and to learn the culture and the heritage of our ancestors. Like, if you are so-called black, Hispanic, and Native American, you are God's chosen people. All right? You are God's chosen people, and God chose you to be his people. You understand? So that's something very important to understand. All right? That's something very important to comply to. You understand? All right? Something very, very important to comply to and to understand. All right? So now let's get into it. So now we're going to start into Psalms 83. All right, we're going to get Psalms 83. All right. We're going to be in the book of Psalms 83. And we're going to go over this. I'm probably going to do another history class too. All right, about Psalms 83, and this is going to be part 1. All right, so this is going to be about Psalms 83. All right, we're going to be in Psalms 83. And this is going to be part 1. So what do y'all know about Psalms 83? Y'all let me know and put it into the live chat. What do you guys know about Psalms 83? Also, if this is your first time attending class, make sure you put your name, city, and state. All right, don't forget to put your name, city, and state. right? Make sure you put your name, city, and state. Don't forget to put your name, city, and state. If this is your first time attending class, all right? Second or third or fourth time, no, don't sweat it. Make sure you put your name, city, and state. So what do y'all know about Psalms 83? Now, Psalms 83 is a prayer, right? Psalms 83 is a prayer, all right, of the Lord. This was a prayer. This was a song. This was a song, right? We say this prayer up to the Lord. This was a song, right? A song, all right? This was a song. This was a prayer being sent up to the Lord. And Psalms 83 is a scripture that's very overlooked, all right? And we're going to do and this is going to be just part one. We're going to break it down into detail, all right? We're going to break it down into detail. This is going to be into detail. So we are going to start in Psalms 83, and we're going to drop down to verse 9. So we're going to start in Psalms chapter 83, verse 9. Because of the Christian church, because of Christianity and because of the Christian church and our Christian pastors, you understand, and those bishops and those ministers, we don't know what the Bible is talking about. And we don't know the spirit behind the Lord, and we don't understand the spirit behind the Bible. Like, because of the Christian church, we believe the Most High is just weak. We believe the Most High is just all forgiving and all loving and things like that. And the Lord is just waiting for us in heaven with a bunch of rainbows and holding hands and things like that, singing a whole bunch of Negro spirituals. Like, that's not what the Lord is about. We have to truly dig down. So, like, we have to truly dig down and deep, you understand, to really see and find the spirit of what the Lord really wants us to understand according to these scriptures. Like, we're going to get the real breakdown and the understanding of what Psalms 83 is really about. Like, Psalms 83 is a prayer. Psalms 83 is a song about the Lord and what the Lord has done and what the Lord want and what we want the Lord to do to our enemies. Like, that's what Psalms 83 is about. Like, Psalms 83 is a prayer and a song that's about the Lord and what we want the Lord to do to our enemies. This is something that we want the Lord to do to our foes, to the people that are against us. Like, we have to understand, in the black community, within the Latino and Native American community, we have enemies. We have people that are against us. You understand? Like, we are not all together. We are not all friends with these other nations. These other nations are our enemies. These other nations of people are our foes, and they are against us. We've been in slavery. We have been in captivity for over 400 years. And these people, our oppressor, have beaten us down, enslaved us, and raped and molested us, and sexually assaulted us, and sex trafficked us, and lynched us, and murdered us, and sold us, and bought us throughout the United States of America. Throughout the slave trade alone, 99 million black people died on the transit to North America alone. Over 77 million Native Americans were murdered and slaughtered because of treaties being broken and not honored and not respected throughout the United States of America. These people are nothing but monsters. These people are nothing but horrible and terrible people. And these nations are not our friends. And these nations are not for us. And these other nations are not with us. These other nations are absolutely against us. They are our enemies and they are our foes. And when you go into Psalms 83, that's what the Lord wants us to understand, that we have enemies and foes against us. And the Christian church wants us, the Christian church wants so-called black people. The Catholic Church wants the Native Americans and the Hispanics and the Latinos. They want the Catholic Church and the Christian church wants us to sing and to pray for these other nations to come together with us so we can work together and finally sit at the table of brotherhood and be equal and be friends. But the Lord is not about that. The priests and prophets of the Lord in the old days and even in the days of Christ were never like that. The Lord does not want us to join together with these other nations. The Lord does not want us to join together with the nations of China, the nations of Japan, the nations of Vietnamese, the nations the nations of the Koreans, the nations of the Irish, the nations of the Romans, the nations of Italy, the nations of the French, Slovakia, the nations of Czechoslovakia, the nations of Russia, you understand, the nations of Nigeria, Ghana, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, you name them. The Lord does not want us together with them. You understand? The Spirit of the Lord wants us to completely be separate. And the Lord wants us to break this down, man. Like the Lord wants us to understand this spirit. So we're going to break down Psalm chapter 83, and this is just going to be part 1. And we're going to start in verse 10. So Psalms chapter 83, verse 10. All right? Verse 9. Psalms chapter 83, verse 9. Chapter 83, verse 9. Do unto them as unto the Midianites. It says, do unto them as unto the Midianites, as to Sisera, as to Jabin, at the brook of Kison. It says, do unto them as unto the Midianites. All right? Unto the Midianites. The Midianites. Do unto them as unto the Midianites. Does anybody know who the Midianites are? Why are the Midianites why is the Lord, why is King David, all right? Why is King David asking the Lord to do unto them as unto the Midianites? Anybody want to give it a guess? What is so significant about the Midianites? Anybody? What is so significant about the Midianites? Anybody want to give it a guess? What is so significant about Midianites? It says, do unto them. In verse 9, do unto them as unto the Midianites. Tonight's class, we're going to focus on the Midianites. Why is the Lord, not the Lord. This is a song coming from Asaph, right? Asaph. All right, Asaph. All right, Asaph or Asaph. So this is a psalm and a prayer coming from Asaph, all right, or Asaph, all right? And so this is a song unto the Lord, praying to the Lord about our enemies and asking the Lord to do to our enemies that are plotting against us as what you did to the Midianites. That's why in verse 9, in Psalm chapter 83, verse 9, it says, do unto them as unto the Midianites. So anybody want to give it a guess? Who are the Midianites? Why is that so important? What did the Lord do to the Midianites? Anybody know? What did the Lord do to the Midianites? This is the history, right, that we need to learn about our culture. This is the history that we need to know about our people. You understand? We're not going to be able to understand Psalms 83 if we don't know the history that Midian had with the children of Israel. This is something that we have to understand. Like the Midianites were not Israelites. They were not a part of our people. They were another nation of people. All right? We were supposed to be separate from the Midianites. All right? The Lord delivered us from them. That's correct. That is something that the Lord delivered us from. So let's get Judges. We're going to get Judges chapter 6. Now we started at Psalm chapter 83 verse 9. But we're going to understand what the Lord did unto the Midianites. We're going to explain the history of what the Lord did unto the Midianites. So we're going to go in Judges chapter 6. And we're going to start at verse 1. All right. All right. Judges chapter 6 verse 1. And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord. Now the Israelites did evil in the sight of the Lord. Like, this is the problem that we have in Israel. And this is the problem that we are trying to fix to this day. If you are an Israelite, you are an Israelite if you are so-called Black, Hispanic, or Native American. you are an Israelite. If you are Puerto Rican, if you are Mexican, El Salvadorian, if you are Costa Rican, if you are Cuban, if you are Puerto Rican, Dominican, if you are Mexican, you are God's chosen people. You are an Israelite. If you are Navajo, Iroquois, and you come from the Nativa Americanos, if you are so-called Native American, if you are Creek from the Muskegee, the Seminoles, the Comanche, the Apache, you understand, the Iroquois, the Navajo, the Cherokee, the Choctaw, you understand? You are God's chosen people. The Chickasaw, you are God's chosen people. The Mohegans, the Mohawkins, the Pequot, you are God's chosen people. If you are so-called Negro, all right, in the Caribbeans, you are God's chosen people. If you come from Trinidad, Barbados, you understand? If you come from the Virgin Islands, from Jamaica, you are God's chosen people. If you are a so-called Negro or a so-called African American in the United States of America, living in parts of North America, you are God's chosen people. You are considered to be an Israelite, according to the scriptures. And the problem that we have to this day is we keep sinning against the Lord. The Lord does not want us to sin against him. A sin is a breaking of the law. The sin is when you break God's laws, statutes, and commandments. You are not supposed to be breaking the laws of God. The Lord ordered us to keep his laws, statutes, and commandments, meaning we don't eat pork, we don't eat shrimp, we don't eat lobster. We don't understand when we eat pork, shrimp, and lobster, we are not serving the God of the Bible, but we are serving the gods of these other nations by practicing the dietary practices that they practice. This is how we end up serving other gods without even realizing we serve other gods. If you're out there getting tattoos and trying to get a sleeve, you are worshiping another god outside of the God of your forefathers. This is something that is against the Lord. You understand? If you practice homosexuality and lesbianism, and you're part of the LG, and you are an ally and a supporter of the LGBTIA plus community, you understand? You are serving another God outside of the God of your forefathers. Like, this is something very important to understand. Like, this is something very important to digest into your system so you can truly understand, all right, what the Lord wants us to know. We are not to, this is the evil that Israel has done in the sight of the Lord, is the breaking of the laws that God gave us to follow since the time of Adam. And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord. And the Most High delivered them into the hand of Midian 7 years. So because we sinned against the Lord, because we disobeyed the Most High's commandments, the Lord was going to send us into captivity. And he was going to put nations the Lord was going to put nations over us that had no business to be over us. Like there are consequences that come behind. There are consequences that come after breaking the law of God. You cannot just break the law and expect nothing to happen. That is silly. That's like you breaking the law in America. You understand? Breaking the law in America and expect nothing to happen. There's going to be some form of punishment no matter what law that you broke. There is a form of punishment that's going to happen. You understand? Just like if you do not listen to what your father says, and you do not listen to what your parents have told you to do, there are consequences that come after you, not listening to what your father told you to do. So the Lord told us to not sin and to not do evil in the sight of him, and we end up doing the evil in the sight of him, then he's going to punish us like any good father would. So now when it says the Lord delivered them into the hand of Midian 7 years, this is what happened. This was the punishment. This was the consequence. We were never supposed to have other nations rule over us. You understand? We were never supposed to be in the hand of other nations. And that's why in the future from this, King David said, I'd rather be in the hands of the Most High than the hands of my enemies. because at least the Lord is going to have mercy. But these other nations do not have mercy on us. Like, these other nations don't even know how to have mercy on the children of Israel. It is a very, very rare situation when another nation of people have mercy on us and have compassion on us and want to do good for us and not evil and wicked towards us. Like, this is what the Lord is trying to teach us. You want to be separate from these other nations because these other nations are going to do evil to you. We need to realize being around these other nations and practicing what these other nations are doing are absolutely going to put our people and our families and our children in the utmost danger. We're going to continue to live in dangerous situations if we continue to be around these other nations and do evil and wickedness of the Lord by practicing the practices of these other nations. That's why the Lord said, serve no other God before me. So like, have no other God before me, or do not serve these other gods. Verse 2, and the hand of Midian prevailed against Israel. Remember, because we did evil in the sight of the Lord, and we broke God's laws, statutes, and commandments, practiced homosexuality, practiced lesbianism, eating pork, eating shrimp, eating lobster, murdering each other, aborting our children, you understand? Practicing homosexuality and lesbianism, you understand? Getting tattoos, you understand? Smoking cigarettes, smoking weed, getting high. Like, these are things that the Lord told us not to do, but we end up doing it. And because of so, and the hand of Midian prevailed against Israel, meaning the hand of Midian prevailed against Israel, meaning they overpowered us, meaning now they are over us. Now they have a hand over us. Now they have a leverage over us. You understand? And the hand of Midian prevailed against us, meaning these people, when they went to come against us, they won. They won. They won the battle. They won the war. And because of the Midianites, the children of Israel made them the dens which are in the mountains, and caves, and strongholds. And because Midian, it says, because of the Midianites, the children of Israel made them dens. Like, this is how bad Midian was to the children of Israel. Like, this is how evil Midian was to the children of Israel. No thanks to us sinning against the Lord. Like, we could have prevented this by just keeping God's laws, statutes, and commandments. We wouldn't have to know the evil of these other nations. Like, we're trying to practice these evils from these other nations. Like, we want to practice these evil, wicked customs of these other nations by celebrating Christmas, celebrating Halloween, celebrating Thanksgiving, celebrating Valentine's Day, celebrating St. Patrick's Day, celebrating Easter. We want to practice and follow the customs of these other nations and do their holidays and practice their practices. We now, because of so, the Lord allowed them, right, a hand over us. The Lord delivered us into their hand. And now we truly understand how wicked these people really are. We don't realize how wicked and evil a people are because we're busy celebrating the holidays of these people. We don't realize how evil our oppressor is because we're busy celebrating Christmas, thinking that we're having a happy Christmas dinner and opening presents under a Christmas tree. We don't realize how evil our oppressor is because of this. And that's the most evil you can do to a people, is to deceive a people. That Christmas tree is in your house to deceive you. To dress your children as goblins and ghouls and as Freddy's and Jason's and Michael Myers, you understand, and Annabelle's and Chucky's, you understand, and dress them up as pumpkins and flowers and tooth fairies and unicorns or whatever the case may be. This is a distraction, and this is to deceive you, to make you believe that this is not something evil and wicked, and not realize the evil and wicked that's being done to you by the people that pushed this culture onto you. You understand? That's why it says, because of the Midianites, the children of Israel made them the dens, right, which are in the mountains. These Midianites were so evil and so wicked to the children of Israel. We had to go into the mountains and flee. That's how evil Midian was to us. That we went into the mountains and made dens. It says, are in the mountains and caves and strongholds. Like we made us dens which are in the mountains and caves and strongholds. Like we went into the mountains, like we went into the mountains, Akim and Wa'agwafian. Like we literally went into the mountains to flee from these people because of how evil they are. Like it's going to come to a point in America, we're going to notice how evil America really is. We're going to have to flee in the wilderness. You understand? And that is a prophecy. We are going to go into the wilderness and we're going to learn how to serve the Lord. And we're going to learn how to serve the Most High again. That's a part of that is prophecy. You understand? Because we're going to finally realize how evil and wicked America is. How evil the daughter of Babylon really is. Just like how we realize how evil and wicked Midian is. Verse 3. And so it was when Israel had sown, meaning what Israel had sown, meaning whatever we did, the evil and the wicked against the Lord, whatever we sown, that the Midianites came up. And this is why the Midianites came up against us. Because we sown evil and wickedness in the land that we are in. We decide to serve other gods. We start to worship idols and start to worship rocks and be okay with homosexuality and lesbianism and watching pornography. You understand? And eating pork, eating shrimp, and eating lobster. You understand? And serving these other gods and idols and celebrating these people's holidays when we had feast days and holidays of our own that the Lord ordained for us to keep, like the Feast of Dedication and the Feast of First Fruits. You understand? And the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread and the Feast of the Memorial Blowing Trumpets and the Feast of Tabernacles. You understand? Like these are things that the Lord ordained for us to do. The Day of Atonement. Like these are feast days and holidays that the Lord ordained for us to do. But we want to sow wickedness and evil in the land and in the sight of the Lord. And that the Midianites came up, and the Amalekites. And so not just the Midianites, but the Amalekites too as well. And the children of the east, even they came up against them. Even the children of the east, meaning the nations that came from the east, also came against us. And they encamped against them and destroyed the increase of the earth till thou come unto Gaza, and left no sustenance. It says, and left no sustenance for Israel, neither sheep, nor ox, nor ass. Like this is how evil this nation was. This is how evil these nations were. That they came into our land and they completely robbed us naked. They took all of our resources that could possibly generate our wealth. They took things that could help generate our income. Like this is how you survive in a land. You need sheep, you need ox, you need ass in order to plow the land and to help feed the land. Like we as the nation of Israel, we dealt with agriculture. We made our profit and we made the majority of our wealth and our income based off of agriculture, meaning taking the substances of the land and producing it a certain way and then making a profit off of it by selling it and by distributing it, whatever the case may be. Agriculture can deal with stones inside of the ground, like emeralds and rubies and diamonds and whatever. You understand? That's agriculture. Taking rubber from the rubber tree, that's agriculture. Making medicine from different chemicals that come from different plants, like that's agriculture. Like growing fruits and crops and vegetables, like that's agriculture. Like these are things how you can make wealth. Like these are things how you can generate wealth and an income. And these nations were so evil, they came into our land and absolutely robbed us naked of the things, right? Robbed us completely naked of the resources that we need to survive. That's why we had to flee into the mountains, because there was nothing left for us in Israel. Like they completely conquered and overcame, right, Israel. So we had to go to the mountains. You understand? Like this is what the Lord wants us to understand. Like we need resources to survive and to live. You cannot have resources and not live. You would end up dying. That's why if the resources are robbed naked of the land, then that land becomes desolate, and the people that live there are forced to move and go somewhere else because there's nothing more in that land. And if they stay in that land, there's going to be little resources there is for them to survive. And now those people are poor in that land. Well, this is what's happening to Israel because we did wicked and evil in the sight of the Lord. And the Lord does not want us to do wicked and evil in the sight of him. We are to keep God's laws, statutes, and commandments to prevent nations like the Midianites and the Amalekites and the children of the east coming against us and completely destroying Israel and robbing Israel from their resources. Like our oppressors are known to do this to us, to take our resources away from us. The Koreans did it, the Vietnamese do it, the Japanese do it, the Chinese do it. That's why there's beauty supply stores ran by Asians, ran by Vietnamese, ran by the Koreans, ran by the Chinese, ran by the Japanese, you understand? Ran by these Asiatic countries that we know of and know a little of, depending who you are. They take our wealth and they rob us naked, and while we still stay poor in the cities, in the towns, in the projects, in the neighborhoods we live, they go back to their country or they go back to their community and they become rich. This has always been a process of these other nations, what they have done to us. That's why the Lord is saying, and left no sustenance for Israel, neither sheep nor ass nor ox. It's like nor ox nor ass. Like this is what these other nations do to us, spiritually and also physically. Like this is what's happening right now in America in the ghetto. Our oppressor is doing it. The Vietnamese are doing it. The Koreans are doing it. If we learn how to serve the Lord and not sin against the Lord, these other nations will not be able to overthrow us and overcome us and rob us from our resources. The black community would still have resources if we did not sin against the Lord. You understand? If we keep God's laws, statutes, commandments, maybe we can build up the resources the Lord wants us to have, to be separate and to build a strong enough government to fight against these other nations by being separate and having our own resources to survive on and not depend on them. This is what the Lord wants. But if we want to continue to serve their gods and celebrate their holidays and continue to celebrate their feast days, the Lord is going to be absolutely against us. You understand? Verse 5. For they came up with their cattle and their tents, and they came as grasshoppers for the multitude. Like this is how evil these other nations are, man. They came up like grasshoppers of the multitude. Have y'all ever seen grasshoppers before? And how they jump, and how imagine a whole bunch of grasshoppers. Like this is like a mass amount of men of war from these other nations of people coming to compass Israel because we sinned against the Lord, and simultaneously robbing the resources of that land to the point where we had to run into the mountains and make strongholds. You understand? And we were in caves and living in caves and strongholds within the mountains. For both and their camels were without number, and they entered into the land to destroy it. They entered into the land of Israel and to destroy the land of Israel. Like that was the purpose of the entire operation, was to destroy Israel. While we want to serve these other gods and to serve the gods of these other nations by celebrating Christmas and Valentine's Day and Thanksgiving and Easter and Valentine's Day, we don't realize the culture, like the culture that we're practicing, the very people that practice this practice are so evil and wicked to us. While we think we celebrate the same holidays and we serve the same gods of these other nations, we believe that we're together. We believe by celebrating Christmas too, we're equal to our oppressor. We think by celebrating Valentine's Day too, we're equal to our oppressor. We think by celebrating Thanksgiving and Halloween and dressing our children up as ghouls and goblins and Jasons and Freddys and Michael Myers and Chuckies and Annabelles, We think we're equal to our oppressor, and we think because we're the same and we do the same thing, maybe we can finally like each other and live around each other. No, the Lord is going to show you how evil these people really are. You can celebrate what they celebrate. They're still going to murder you on Christmas Day. They're still going to throw you in prison on Christmas Day. They're still going to separate you from your families on Christmas Day. This is what's going to happen. They're still going to shut your lights off and try to evict you in the middle of winter on Christmas Day during the holiday jolly season. Like, this is what's going to happen. I'm not making this up. Please, someone tell me online if I'm making this up. I'm not making this up. This is what's going to happen. All these other nations want to do is destroy us. But we want to serve their gods. And we think by serving their gods, we're just automatically friends. And we automatically cool. And we all good. That's not how it works. That is not how it operates. You understand? Let's go ahead. Let's go to verse 6. And Israel was greatly impoverished because of the Midianites. All right? Does anybody know what it means to be impoverished? All right? Let's look it up. What does it mean to be impoverished? Does anybody know what it means to be impoverished? This is a very good word. Does anybody know what it means to be impoverished? Like, this is what they have done to Israel. Like, I want everybody to understand the spirit of this. Because this is what's happening spiritually in the black community right now. Like, this is what's happening spiritually and economically in the black, Latino, and Native American community right now. Like, this is what we have to understand. What does it mean to be impoverished? We are in Judges chapter 6, verse 9. And Israel was greatly impoverished because of the Midianites. We have been reduced to a poverty state. Reduced to poverty. To become poor. Like, that's what it means to be impoverished. 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 All right? Impoverished. Impoverished. Meaning to reduce to poverty. That's what it means. To reduce in poverty. To exhaust your riches. Like, that's what it means to be impoverished. So when it says, and Israel was greatly impoverished because of the Midianites. The Midianites. Like, this is what these Midianites have done to us. They reduced us to poverty. What does that sound like? Because we sinned against the Lord, we have been reduced to poverty by these other nations. These other nations, even to this day, have reduced us to poverty. The Koreans have reduced us to poverty. The Midianites, the descendants of the Midianites, have reduced us to poverty. You understand? Reduced us to poverty. The Ishmaelites, you understand? The people of Arabia and Saudi Arabia have reduced us to poverty. Our oppressor, like the Irish, you understand? Right? Like the Irish, like today, you understand? The people of Russia, you understand? Like, think about it. The people of, the people, you just name it, Italy and Rome and Lithuania and Russia, like our so-called oppressor, like your Donald Trump and your Mike Pence. Like, these nations reduced us to poverty. Those Africans, which are like, Midian. I believe the Midianites, I'm going to have to double check, but the Midianites either are African, so-called Ham, or I believe they come from Ishmael. I want to say they come from Ishmael, the Midianites. All right? The Midianites. Let me double check that for sure. I want to make sure I know. Salakia. I believe they come from Ishmael. I want to say that actually, Salakia. They may just be Ham. All right? All right. Midian. All right? Salakia. They're not Ishmaelites. Salakia. They're not Ishmaelites. All right? All right, they're not Ishmaelites. They are Shemitic people. All right, they are Shemitic people, and they come, and there is another nations that come from the Shemitic line. All right, All right, Midian. All right, let's get back to Judges chapter 6, verse 9. All right, Judges chapter 6, verse 9. And it says, right, Judges chapter 6, verse 9. It's like not verse 9. It's like verse 6. Judges chapter 6, verse 6. And Israel was greatly impoverished because of the Midianites. You understand? Like these other nations reduced us to poverty. These other nations, just like the Koreans and the Vietnamese and our oppressor, and the Chinese and the Japanese, they reduced us to poverty. Because we have sinned against the Lord, we are going to be reduced to poverty by these other nations. That's why the Lord said, while they're the head and we're the tail, and these other nations are going to be above us. That's why the Lord says, while they come very, very high, we become very, very low. Like this is why the Lord says these things. And Israel was greatly impoverished because of the Midianites. And the children of Israel cried unto the Lord. Like because we have been reduced to such a poor state, and we've been reduced to such poverty, we cried unto the Lord. You understand? Just like we should be crying unto the Lord right now. Like you notice we didn't cry unto the Midianites. You understand that we didn't cry to the government officials of Midian, because we understood it was the Midianites that reduced us to poverty. We don't realize because of Christianity, right? We don't realize because of the Catholic Church and the Christian Church teaching us, right, in the spirit of Martin Luther King of I had a dream and I had a dream, right? We don't realize we need to be crying out to the Lord. But instead, we cry unto America to solve our problems, when we should be crying unto the Lord to solve our problems. Like right here, we didn't cry unto Midian. We cried unto the Lord. But in America, we cry unto America, even though America reduced us into the poverty state. Even though America destroyed the black, Hispanic, and Native American community by reducing us to a poverty state and taking the black man out of the home. You understand? And pushing drugs into our community and throwing out and giving us illegal narcotics and illegal weapons for us to use to kill each other with. You understand? And then have the nerve to throw us in jail for having illegal narcotics in possession or having an illegal firearm in possession. And now we flood the prison. And now the whole community is destroyed. And now you have the 80s and 90s, and you have the rappers telling and explaining a story in their raps and in their songs of how evil and wicked we have become in our own cities when we used to be great. Tell me, now please tell me y'all haven't heard this before. Like this is something what's going on. Don't forget to put your name, city, and state too. All right? If you're coming into class, don't forget to put your name, city, and state. All right? And the children of Israel cried unto the Lord. Verse 7. And it came to pass, when the children of Israel cried unto the Most High, because of the Midianites. Like we cried unto the Most High because of the Midianites. Because they destroyed our city, they were killing our men, they were killing our sisters. Like they were oppressing our people to the point where we fled into the mountains. Like they reduced our nation into such a state of poverty. They reduced us into a state of poverty, reduced us to poverty. We become poor. Now we're crying to the Lord because of what they are doing to us. Verse 8, the Most High sent a prophet unto the children of Israel. Like the Lord sent a prophet unto the children of Israel, which said unto them, Thus saith the Most High power of Israel, I brought you up from Egypt, and brought you forth out of the house of bondage. Like this is something very important to understand. Like the Lord is explaining to the children of Israel, I'm the one that brought you out of Egypt. I'm the one that brought you out of the house of bondage. Verse 9, and I delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians, and out of the hand of all that oppressed you. Like this is what we have to understand in detail. The Lord delivered us out of the hand of the Egyptians. While the Egyptians were murdering us and killing us and enslaving us and making them build their temples and their high holy places, whatever they want to call it, and their so-called their so-called holy places and their temples of Anubis and their temples of Horus and their temples of Ra and their temples of Iris and their temples of El. Like while we were building their temples for their gods and building their tombs for them and slaving for them, they murdered us. They enslaved us. Like they were killing every male child in Egypt. If you were a male Hebrew, if you were a male Israelite, and you were born a male Israelite, you are going to be put to death. Like that's how wicked the Egyptians were. And the Lord delivered us from them. You understand? And out of the hand of all that oppressed you, even out of all the ones that have oppressed us, there were many other nations that also oppressed the nation of Israel. You understand? Like the Amalekites oppressed the nation of Israel. The Moabites oppressed the nation of Israel. The Amorites oppressed the nation of Israel. That's why the Lord over and over again told us to separate from these other nations and to put them to death because of how wicked and evil they are to our people. You understand? You understand? And drave them out from before you, meaning to drive them completely out from among you. Like that's what the Lord always wanted us to be like when it comes to these other nations of people. Drive them away from you. Do not be a part of them. Because when we start serving their gods and practicing and serving their idols and their customs and their culture, we don't realize how evil and wicked it is. Like we don't realize, because of the deception of serving their gods, of how evil they are as a people. Once again, I'll say this one more time. We celebrate Christmas, and because we celebrate Christmas, we think we're equal with our oppressor because he or she celebrates Christmas too. And by us celebrating Christmas, you think that we should get along. And we should all come together because we all celebrate Christmas. We all say, jingle bell, jingle all the way. Like we believe because we do all this, we should just be one big old happy family. But instead, they separate your families. And they separate you from your families. And they throw your children into INS detention centers and throw them into dog cages and deport your parents and your father and your mother and your abuelos and abuelas. Like this is what happens. It's absolutely absurd and evil. And gave you their land. Right? And the Lord drove them out of the land and gave you their land. All right? Verse 10. And I said unto you, I am the Most High, your power. Fear not the gods of the Amorites. Like, fear not the gods of the Amorites. Like, this is something that the Lord has said to us before. Fear not the gods of the Amorites, in whose land ye dwell. Like, you all dwell in the land of the Amorites. Like, we're still in the land of Israel. But this is where the Amorites used to dwell at. Right? But ye have not obeyed my voice. Like, we did not obey the voice of the Lord. Understand? Instead, we feared the gods of the Amorites. How do you fear the gods of the Israelites? You start serving their gods, all right? And you start practicing their culture as if their gods are real. You believe the God of death is real, so now you fear the God of death. So you put some ornament on your door, or you put some dream catcher on the top of your wall to make sure all the spirits and the death does not come to you and kill you at night. Like, this is how you serve other gods. Understand? Instead of fearing the God that actually is real and exists, the God that killeth and maketh alive, the God of good and evil, you understand? Instead of fearing the God of the Bible, you fear these fake gods that don't exist. You fear the sun god because you think if you don't serve the sun god, the sun's going to come down and completely burn up the entire earth. Like, this is absurd. This is what we have to understand. This is how we did not obey the voice of the Lord. Instead of us not fearing the gods of these other nations, we feared the gods of these other nations. And that is sinning against the Lord. Verse 11. And there came an angel of the Most High, and sat under an oak, which was in Ophrah. In Ophrah, like an Ophrah. So there was an angel of the Most High, and he was standing. And he sat under an oak. An oak is a form of a tree. All right, an oak is a tree. All right, that pertained unto Joash, the Abizarite, the Abizrite, and his son Gideon threshed wheat by the winepress to hide it from the Midianites. So this is where the family of Gideon was at. His father and him was at to hide it from the Midianites. Meaning, this is how they made their money, by the way. Like they threshed wheat by winepress, because that was their job. They threshed wheat. All right, to thresh something is to grow and to take it from the ground and to make something of it. All right, that's threshing. You can thresh fruits. You can thresh vegetables. You can thresh wheat, which is a form of a crop. Like you thresh crops. You thresh crops so you can make more crops. All right. All right. So this is how they made their living. And they were trying to hide it from the Midianites. Because why? If the Midianites saw Gideon and his father threshing wheat, they would have killed Gideon and their father and destroyed that entire area, right? The entire area and the winepress, by the winepress. Remember, the Lord just said the Midianites reduced us to a state of poverty. They reduced us to poverty. How do you reduce a nation to poverty? You destroy their resources, or you take their resources away from them. You understand? That's how you reduce someone to poverty. All right. Verse 12. And the angel of the Most High appeared unto him, and said unto him, the Most High is with thee, thou mighty man of valor. So now the angel is talking to Gideon, and he's saying, the Lord is with you, thou mighty man of valor. Meaning Gideon was a soldier. All right, Gideon was a warrior. Gideon was a man of war. Throughout our generations, our men were never not men of war. We fought for something. It could be as small as fighting for your house. We fought for something. We were never weak. We were never being a coward. You understand? We were men of war. We fought. We are going to fight. Like that was always my line growing up. When I was growing up as a child, I would always say, I'm going to fight. I don't care who you are, I'm going to fight. You might think that you can beat me up. You can be Mike Tyson. You can be Muhammad Ali. You can be Joe Frazier. Just know I'm going to fight. You understand? That's called not being a coward. Just because you are up against Mike Tyson, it doesn't mean you be a coward and not fight. If Mike Tyson is trying to beat you up and destroy your family, you fight Mike Tyson. You don't say, oh, that's Mike Tyson, and he's the vicious man on the earth, and he has and his hands are registered. I'm just going to go the other way and let him take advantage of my family. Now, no one is saying Mike Tyson would do something like this, but I'm giving you an example of a man that is strong and that can fight very well. As a man of Israel, you are not going to be a coward and just say, I'm going to let Mike Tyson do whatever he wants to me. That is coward. That is being a coward. That is cowardice. Remember, our men in the nation of Israel were men of war. You understand? That's why it says men of valor. Verse 13. And Gideon said unto him, all right, Gediawan in the Hebrew. And Gideon said unto him, O my power, right? O my Lord, if the Lord be with us, why then is all this befallen of us? Like he's asking the angel, if the Lord is with us, what happened to us? Like the Midianites completely took over and reduced our people into a state of poverty. How is the Lord with us? You know, right? He's asking us, how is the Lord with us? We've been reduced to a state of poverty. We're poor, we've been murdered, killed, we had to flee into the mountains. What do you mean the Lord is with us? And where be all his miracles which our fathers told us of? Like he's saying, Salakia, you know, like the Lord, we've been told by our forefathers, the miracles that the Lord did in Egypt, you know, how he, you know, all this other stuff, and all these kind of swallowing men up whole, splitting of the Red Sea, like all these miracles that the Lord have done. Where are these miracles? like the Midianites are completely compassed Israel and reduced us into poverty. We have no more resources. Like we are literally struggling to survive. Like what's going on? What do you mean the Lord is with us? Like this is why, like this is the context of how Gideon is like asking, like how is the Lord with us if all these terrible things are happening to us? All right. Did not the Most High bring us up from Egypt? He's asking, like this is the power that brought us out of Egypt, right? But now the Most High have forsaken us and delivered us into the hands of the Midianites. But now the Most High delivered us into this nation, to the nation of Midian, to the Midianites. Understand? Verse 14. And the Most High looked upon him and said, Go in this thy might, and thou shalt save Israel from the hand of the Midianites. Have not I sent thee? And the Most High spoke unto him. Now the angel is, now this is the Most High speaking to Gideon, but it's through the angel. Like the angel is relaying a message to Gideon from the Lord. All right. And in verse 14 it says, And the Most High looked upon him and said, Go into this thy might, meaning go in this thy might, meaning go in strong, and thou shalt save Israel from the hand of the Midianites. Meaning you, Gideon, you are going to save the nation of Israel from these Midianites. Have not I sent thee? Meaning, have you not been sent by me? Right? What does it mean to be sent by the Lord? Meaning the Lord is with you. It's a very important thing to understand. If the Lord sends you, meaning the Lord is going to be with you, especially as long as you keep God's laws, if you keep his laws, statutes, and commandments, and serve him the way the Lord requires us to serve him. Verse 15. And he said unto him, O my power, wherewith shall I save Israel? Right? It says, wherewith shall I save Israel? Behold, my family is poor in Manasseh. Like this is what Gideon was. He was poor in Manasseh. Like where am I going to? Like he's asking, where am I going to save Israel? I'm poor. You understand? I am absolutely poor. And this is another important fact to understand. You do not have to be wealthy, understand, and with a whole bunch of money to do good for your nation. Understand? Us brothers back here, we're not rich. We are just like any other black, Latino, Native American America, poor, living in poverty. But we are doing our damnedest to save our people by teaching them to keep the laws of God. You understand? Verse 15. All right. And at the end of verse 15, and I am the least in my father's house. And he says, he's not the great in his father's house, but he's saying, I am the least in my father's house. I want y'all to pay very close attention to that too. In my father's house. It didn't say his mama's house. It says his father's house. It was very important to understand who your father was. And it was your father's house. Meaning you come from your father. All right? You are based off of who your father is. Verse 16. And the Lord said unto him, Surely I will be with thee, and thou shalt smite the Midianites as one man. And the Lord said, Don't you worry about that. I found grace in thy sight, meaning I found grace. I seen that you did good in the time that you were here. And because of so, right? And because of so, you shall smite the Midianites as one man. All right. Verse 17. And he said unto him, If now I have found grace in thy sight, then show me a sign that thou talkest with me. All right. So Gideon is saying, if this is true, all right, if I truly found grace in thy sight, show me a sign that this is true. Verse 18. Depart not hence, I pray thee, until I come unto thee, and bring forth my present, and set it before thee. And he said, I will tarry until thou come again. So Gideon said, until I come back with my present and my offering, right, and my offering pretty much, like what I'm going to, my present to you, do not move from this spot. I'll be right back, right? And the angel said, I will tarry here, meaning I will stay here. All right, verse 19. And Gideon went in and made ready a kid. And now it says ready a kid. This is not an actual kid, like from the human race, a kid from like an animal. And the Lord's going to explain that with this thing. And unleavened cakes of an ephah of flour. The flesh he put in a basket, and he put the broth in a pot, and brought it out unto him under the oak, and presented it. All right, and presented it. Like this is what a present was, something that you presented. A present is not so much a gift. All right, a present was something you just presented to someone. All right, so this right here was a present, meaning he presented this, whatever it was, to him. He gave it to him, he presented it in front of him. It was up to him to take it. All right, verse 20. And the angel of God said unto him, take the flesh and the unleavened cakes, and lay them upon this rock, and pour out the broth. And he did so. So Gideon did exactly what the angel said to do. Gideon followed the order. He poured out the broth, and he put the unleavened cakes and the flesh on the rock that the angel of God said to put it on. Verse 21. And the angel of the Lord put forth the end of the staff that was in his hand. So the angel of the Lord, he had his staff in his hand. All right. In his hand. And touched the flesh and the unleavened cakes. And there rose up fire out of the rock and consumed the flesh. So when the staff that was in his hand touched the flesh and the unleavened cakes, there rose up a fire out of the rocks. I mean, like a fire just burst. Think of a fire spontaneously combusting out of nowhere. That would scare the mess out of you. If some fire just combusted out of nowhere, that would make you jump back a little. You understand? So this flame just came out of the rock, right? And consumed the flesh and unleavened cakes, right? Then the angel of the Lord departed out of his sight. So once this happened, the angel of the Lord departed. Verse 22. And when Gideon perceived that he was an angel of the Lord, and once he realized that this was the angel of God, Gideon said, Alas, O Lord God, for because I have seen an angel of the Lord face to face. Why do you think, Salakia, why do you think he's saying that? Anybody want to guess why you think Gideon is saying something like that? Think about the angel. I'm gonna give y'all a hint. Think about the angel. Think about what he just saw. He said he saw the angel, right? Why do you think he said that? Anybody want to give it a shot? Why do y'all think he said that? Anybody know? Salaki. Anybody want to give it a guess? Why he said like Alice. He was saying like, oh. Like, you understand? Like he was saying Alice, like, oh. Oh Lord God, for because I have seen an angel of the Lord face to face. Think about it. Remember the breakdown. Right? These angels were very scariest. They looked terrible. I mean, they were scary. There was something to be feared. Like, this is why he was like, oh snap, this is the real deal. He finally perceived that he was in front of an angel, face to face. Verse 23. It's like a verse 23. And the Most High said unto him, Peace be unto thee. Fear not. Thou shalt not die. Meaning, don't you worry about it. Don't you worry about it. Fear not. That ain't going to happen to you. Because these angels were very, very scary. They were terrible. And he seen flames just combust out of nowhere. He just realized he just got finishing questioning the Most High. So now because he realized the Lord was actually talking to him, he was like, oh snap, let me get my act together. All right? Like there is a certain way you are to address and talk to anyone that is above you. You understand? That's the spirit of that. You just do not talk to anybody any kind of way. That could be a brother above you. It could also be as well a brother under you. There's always a way to talk to a brother. You understand? And you come correctly. Like this is Black, Hispanic, and Native American culture you're talking about. Like the Lord is no punk. You cannot talk to a priest and prophet of the Lord a certain way and expect nothing to happen to you. Especially don't try to put your hands on a priest and prophet of the Lord and expect nothing to happen to you. Like this is the spirit of the Most High. We are not weak back here. You understand? Like we come from places where if you talk to someone the wrong way, you was going to get slapped in the mouth. At least that's where I came from. I came from places where if you talk to me a certain way, I may slap you in the mouth. Now I can't do that anymore. All right, I can't just slap anyone in the mouth by talking to me some kind of way. Commanding General Yohana, all right, and the generals under him and the captains and the officers above me, all right, taught me well. All right, I can't smack people in the mouth anymore. I changed my ways. I go to ye and your brother alone. That's what I do now. You know, all right? And that's how everyone else should be doing. All right? Do not slap anyone in the mouth. We don't do that. I was just making a point that we are not weak back here. All right? And the Lord is not weak. All right? Let's continue. Verse 24. Then Gideon built an altar there unto the Most High and called it Jehovah Shalom. All right, Jehovah Shalom. Unto this day it is yet an Ophrah of the Abizrites. All right, so now Gideon built an altar here. All right, so Gideon built an altar here. Verse 25. And it came to pass the same night that the Most High said unto him, Take thy father's young bullock, even the second bullock of 7 years old, and throw down the altar of Baal that thy father had, and cut down the grove that is by it. So whatever altar that is there, cut it completely down. Verse 26. And build an altar unto the Most High thy power, because that altar was of Baal and not the God of our forefathers. And built an altar unto the power of thy God upon the top of this rock in the ordered place. And take the second bullock and offer a burnt sacrifice with the wood of the grove which thou shalt cut down. So whatever tree that you cut down, all right, this is what you're going to use, all right, to burn the sacrifice. All right. Verse 27. Then Gideon took 10 men of his servants and did as the Most High have said unto him. So Gideon did exactly what the Lord said to do. Remember, the Lord is about following orders. We are in this situation now because we did not follow orders. That's why the Midianites came and destroyed Israel and reduced us to poverty, because we did not follow orders. We did not keep the order that the Lord said to not serve other gods and to do evil and wickedness and follow these other heathens and serve their gods. We didn't keep that order. We didn't follow that order. Follow orders. All right. And Salakia had said unto him, and so it was, because he feared his father's household and the men of the city, that he could not do it by day, that he did it by night. So he didn't do this by the day, but he did it by night. Verse 28, and when the men of the city arose early in the morning, behold, the altar of Baal was cast down. He could not do it in the daylight because if he see, like, listen, he's like, hey, you got to think about it. Imagine trying to take down the Christian church today. They would look at you, they would try to put you to death out. If you try to take down the Christian church with a bulldozer right now, you know, they would try to kill you out. They're like, what are you doing to God's temple? Like, they'll go erratic. Even though in that temple, they're serving another God that's outside of the God of the Bible. All right? So think of it that way. So he couldn't do it by the morning time. He had to do it at night so no one sees him. All right? He did not want anyone to see him take this altar down of Baal. And when the men of the city arose early in the morning, behold, the altar of Baal was cast down, and the grove was cut down that was by it, and the second bullock was offered upon the altar that was built. So he completed the order the way the order was supposed to be completed. All right. Verse 29. And they said one to another, who have done this thing? And when they inquired and asked, they said, Gideon, the son of Joash, have done this thing. So they asked, who did this thing? Because now they're upset. They're angry. Why did you take down the altar of Baal? Like, why did you take my pork away? Why did you take my seafood boil away? You understand? Why are you trying to take my God away from me? This is my God. I have a personal relationship with God. Why are you trying to take that from me? Like, they're asking who did this crime. They think it's a crime. Who did this crime? Verse 31. Not verse 31. Verse 30. Then the men of the city said unto Joash, bring out thy son, that he may die. Like, oh man, like this is it. You understand? Like, this was a serious crime to these people, man. Like, this is how it, like, Salaki, like, this is how evil this is how precious it was to serve other gods. They wanted to kill this man for taking down their altar. Do you know how many people want to kill us for saying Allah is dead and you're just worshiping a rock? You understand? You know how many people? You know how many of our people want to kill us for saying Islam is dead? You understand? That white Jesus, that Caucasian Jesus Christ is dead. That blue-eyed, blonde-haired devil that you worship in that Christian church is dead. You know how people always want to strangle us and kill us? Like, this is the spirit that these other gods have on our people. This is the spirit that these other gods put on our people. They put the spirit of wanting to kill their own people. It was just an altar. But you want to come here and murder this man for it. It was a murder of another god at that. And you want to try to murder your brother for it. For what? That altar meant absolutely nothing. You're an Israelite. You're a Jew. You're God's chosen people. Who the hell is Baal? Right? Because he hath cast down the altar of Baal. And because he hath cut down the grove that was by it. Like, this was a serious crime to them that Gideon committed. Verse 31. And Joash said unto all that stood against him, will ye plead for Baal? Right? Will ye save him? He that will plead for him, let him be put to death. Willest, it is yet morning. If he be a god, let him plead for himself, because one hath cast down his altar. So now, Joash has said, okay, how about this? Will ye plead for Baal? Right? Meaning, will ye save him? Right? He that will plead for him, let him be put to death. Willest, is it yet morning? Meaning, whoever did this thing, let Baal put him to death. Don't let you do it, but let Baal put him to death. Right? All right? If he be a god, let him plead for himself. Meaning, if Baal be an actual god, let him plead for himself. I don't need you. Like, this is the spirit that even Christ was also trying to teach us when it came to the God of our forefathers. Understand? The Lord is going to plead for himself when we go against him. That's why Joash is saying this. Our God pleads for himself. We don't have to do anything. The Lord is going to plead for us. You understand? So now Joash is saying to these brothers, hey, if your God is real, let him kill who destroyed his altar and his grove. Right? That's why he said, if he be a God, let him plead for himself, because one have cast down his altar. Because guess what? If you destroyed God's altar, just best and believe we're not going to have to kill you out. We're not going to have to be at your doorstep out. Because our power is going to smite you down if you take down our altar. Just like how the Lord destroyed every firstborn child in Egypt. Our Lord is going to plead for himself. We're not going to have to do anything. The Lord told Moses, this is the most gangster thing. This is like the most gangster thing the Lord did. One of the most gangster things that the Lord did in the Bible, man. He told Moses, look, turn around. You see those Egyptians behind you? They're going to be no more. You understand? Our power is going to plead for himself. Because our power, our God is real. These other gods, they are not. All right. Verse 32. Therefore on that day he called him Jerubbaal. Therefore on that day he called him Jerubbaal, saying, let Baal plead against him, because he hath thrown down his altar. All right. Therefore on that day he called him Jerubbaal. All right. Jerubbaal. Now, does anybody know who did he call Jerubbaal? He called Gideon Jerubbaal. All right. How do you know this? We'll get that in the future, like coming up. This is just part 1. All right. But in Judges chapter 7, verse 1, then Jerubbaal, who is Gideon. That's your precept to let you know who Jerubbaal is. It would also explain further down, I believe, as well. But for sure, this is his father. This is like a nickname for Gideon because of what he did. All right? All right? Of what he did to the grove. All right? When he cut down the altar. All right? Alright, let's see. Let's get it. Verse 33. Then all the Midianites, and verse 33, and all the Midianites and the Amalekites and the children of the east were gathered together and went over and pitched in the valley of Jezreel. So these were all the nations that came against us and destroyed our land and reduced us to a poverty state. You understand? Like those Amalekites, they were also one of the people that put us into a reduced poverty state. Midian did it. These other nations are responsible for the poor and the poverty we are living in Israel at this time. Just like these other nations, like the Jewish man, our oppressor, and these dang Arabians and Koreans are responsible for the poverty that we live in. They completely eat up our substances and they destroy our resources by taking our resources away from us. All right, let's get it. Verse 34. But the Spirit of the Lord came upon Gideon, and he blew a trumpet, and Abiezer was gathered after him. All right, so Gideon blew a trumpet, and messengers came. Abiezer was gathered after him. Verse 35. And he sent messengers throughout all Manasseh, who also was gathered after him. And he sent messengers unto Asher, and unto Zebulun, and unto Naphtali, and they came up to meet them. So these are all northern tribes right here, and he all came to meet Gideon. All right. That's very important to understand too. Let me bring that point out. Like our culture, like that's why we have the Feast of Memorial blowing trumpets. The purpose of the blowing trumpets is to let us know, right? The spirit behind the blowing of trumpets and the spirit of blowing a trumpet is to prepare for war and for us to come together. Like that was the spirit behind blowing a trumpet within Israel. Like this was a part of our culture to do. Like once you heard a trumpet being blown, which would usually be like a ram's horn, like you would blow this horn right here to let people know you need to come here, right? Because something is going down. Either we need to have a talk, or we are in danger, or we need to go to war. Whatever those three things are, you would blow this horn right here to get everyone's attention. Or you would have a silver horn to get everyone's attention. All right. Verse 36. And Gideon said unto them, and Gideon said unto God, if thou wilt save Israel, all right, if thou wilt save Israel by my hand, as thou hast said. Verse 37. Behold, I will put a fleece of wool in the floor, and after the dew be on the fleece only, and it be dry upon all the earth beside. Then shall I know that thou wilt save Israel by mine hand, as thou hast said. So now this is Gideon also saying, if I make a wool of, so Gideon, right? Now Gideon, he just wants to make sure, right? Gideon just wants to make sure. Remember, Gideon right now, Gideon is building the courage to go to war. He's a man of war, but he wants to make sure the Lord is with us. All right? He just wants to make sure the Lord is with us. All right? Verse 38, and it was so, for he rose up early on the morrow, and thrust the fleece together, and wringed the dew out of the fleece, a bowl full of water. Verse 39, and Gideon said unto God, let not thy anger be hot against me, and I will speak but this once. Let me prove, I pray thee, but this once with the fleece. Let it now be dried only upon the fleece, and upon all the ground let there be dew. All right? So he said, please don't be angry at me. I just want to make sure, right, that you are going to be with me. Right? He's begging, he's requesting. So like he's requesting from the Lord, please do not kill me for this. I just want to know if you are with me like you said you were. All right? Was going to be. Verse 40. And God did so that night, for it was dry upon the fleece only, and there was dew on all the ground. All right. So there was dew all on the ground. So this is so the Lord did exactly what He said He was going to do. All right. Judges. Let's get to Judges chapter 7. Judges chapter 7, verse 1. Then Jerubbaal, who is Gideon, and all the people that were with him, rose up early and pitched beside the well of Harod, so that the host of the Midianites were on the north side of them, by the hill of Moreh, in the valley. So now this is where they were. All right, this is exactly where they were, their exact location. This is where they pitched their tents. All right. Verse 2. And the Most High said unto Gideon, the people that are with thee are too many for me to give the Midianites into their hands, lest Israel vaunt themselves against me, saying, my own hand hath saved me. So now, the Lord is saying there's too many men that are with you. All right? I want to make sure you know that you won this fight by me being on your side, and not based off of how many men you had when you went to war with. You understand? Like the Lord wants to make sure all Israel knows that when we went to war with these Midianites, He was with us. Verse 3. Now therefore go to, proclaim in the ears of the people, saying, whosoever is fearful and afraid, let him return and depart early from Mount Gilead. And there returned of the people 22,000, and there remained 10,000. So 22,000 men. 20 and 2,000 men left because they were afraid to go to war. So 10,000 men remained. Verse 4. And the Most High said unto Gideon, the people are yet too many. So even 10,000 men are too many. All right. Bring them down unto the water, and I will try them for thee there. So the Lord is going to try them there, to whittle the numbers, to go to war. All right. Bring them down unto the water, and I will try them for thee there. And it shall be that of whom I say unto thee, this shall go with thee, the same shall go with thee. And of whosoever I say unto thee, this shall not go with thee, the same shall not go. So the ones I say to go with you, they're going to go with you. And the ones that I say don't go with you, don't go with you. All right. Verse 5. So he brought them down, the people, unto the water. And the Most High said unto Gideon, everyone that lappeth of the water with his tongue, as a dog lappeth him, shall thou set by himself. Likewise, everyone that boweth down upon his knees to drink. So who's ever bending down, drinking the water a certain way, like lappeth, all right, you're going to separate them. All right? You're going to separate them. All right? So Joshua chapter 7, verse 8. All right? All right? Verse 6, like it. Verse 5. So he brought down the people unto the water. And the Lord said unto Gideon, everyone that lappeth of the water with his tongue, as a dog lappeth, him shalt thou set by himself. Likewise, everyone that boweth down upon his knees to drink. Verse 6. And the number of them that lapped, putting their hand to their mouth, were 300 men. But all the rest of the people bowed down upon their knees to drink water. So 300 lapped and brought the water to their mouth, while some got on their knees and started drinking the water. All right, verse 7. And the Lord said unto Gideon, by the 300 men that lapped will I save you. Meaning, the ones that are 300 men, those are the ones that are going to go with you. All right. All right. Well, I save you and deliver the Midianites into thine hand. So it says, and deliver the Midianites into thy hand. So these are the ones, these are the brothers that are going to go with you to go to war with the Midianites. All right. And let all the other people go every man unto his place. And it says, and let all the other people go every man unto his place. So all the other men that are not of the 300, they can go back wherever they came from. All right. Verse 8. So the people took victuals in their hand. Victuals like food. All right. And their trumpets. All right. A trumpet is like a warning. This is how you communicated in war. Like back in the day, you would use instruments to communicate through war. Like certain sounds of the horn or certain sounds of the drum was a order to be given. Like if I blow the horn twice, you go to the left, or you go to the east, or you're going to go to the west. Like this is how the nation of Israel did it. Like when we blew a horn a certain way, this is how we knew, okay, you go this way, you go that way, you go straight, you go this way. Like this is how the Lord set things up. Like this is how the Lord was big on communication. Like communication was a very serious thing unto the Lord. And we communicated by using horns at one point. This is specifically during the time of war. All right. And he sent all the rest of Israel, every man unto his tent, and retained those 300 men. And the host of Midian was beneath him in the valley. So those 300 men was with him, while the Midianites were in the valley. Verse 9. And it came to pass, the same night, that the Most High said unto him, arise, get thee down unto the host, for I have delivered it into thy hand. So the Lord said, Gideon, get up, all right, get up, and go to the host, for I delivered them to you, right? Meaning I gave them to you to win. I gave you to them to completely, utterly destroy them and to defeat them. All right. Verse 10. But if thou fear to go down, go thou with Phorah thy servant down to the host. Meaning, if you are afraid to go down by yourself, all right, take him with you. And thou shalt hear what they say. And afterward shall thine hands be strengthened to go down unto the host. Then went he down with Phorah his servant unto the outside of the armed men that were in the host. So the Lord said, you're going to hear certain words down there to give you the strength or the courage, right, to go against these people. Verse 12. And the Midianites and the Amalekites and all the children of the east lay along in the valley like grasshoppers for multitude, and their camels were without number, as the sand by the seaside for multitude. Meaning, this was very huge. Like, this was very, very big. You understand? Like, this was very, very big. A whole bunch of men were there. Like, there was nothing but soldiers down there. All right? Verse 13. It's like in verse 12. It's like verse 13. And when Gideon was come, behold, there was a man that told a dream unto his fellow, and said, behold, I dreamed a dream. So there was a fellow among those Midianites and those Amalekites and the children that came from the east. Someone had a dream, and this dream said, behold, I dreamed a dream, and lo, a cake of barley bread trembled into the host of Midian, and came unto a tent, and smote it, that it fell, and overturned it, that the tent lay along. So the brother said, or the fellow said amongst those brethren down there, a piece of bread came and destroyed the camp. All right, completely destroyed everything in there. All right. Of course, you heard this dream, you were like, a piece of bread? Are you kidding me? You would have thought nothing of it. You'd be like, that's just a dream. Right. Verse 14. And his fellow answered and said, this is nothing else save. This is nothing else. And his fellow answered and said, this is nothing else save the sword of Gideon, the son of Joash, a man of Israel, for into his hand have God delivered Midian and all the hosts. So, and his fellow answered, this must be, right? This must be a sign, right? Verse 15. And it was so when Gideon heard the telling of the dream and the interpretation thereof that he worshiped. So he heard these fellows say, this has to be talking about Gideon coming up against us. All right. Thereof that he worshipped and returned into the host of Israel. A host is an army. A host is a group of soldiers. So he went, all right, he went and spoke to Israel, all right. So like it, and said, arise, for the Most High have delivered into your hand the host of Midian. So he told these brothers, stand up now, rise up, prepare yourselves, get ready for war, for the Lord has delivered the Midianites into our hand. Verse 15. It's like it, not verse 15, so like it. Verse 16. And he divided 300 men into 3 companies. All right, so he divided the 300 men into 3 companies. All right, meaning each company had 100 men. And he put a trumpet in every man's hand, with empty pitchers and lamps within the pitcher, within the pitchers. All right, so every man had a trumpet in every man's hand with empty pitchers and lamps within the pitcher. So within the pitcher, there were lamps within it. All right. So there was a light. It was for a light. Verse 17. And he said unto them, look on me, and do likewise. And behold, when I come to the outside of the camp, it shall be that as I do, so shall ye do. All right. And he said unto them, look on me and do likewise. Meaning, follow what I do. Follow my orders. And behold, when I come to the outside of the camp, it shall be that. As I do, shall ye do. So whatever you see me do, do it. Follow my orders. Follow my commands. Verse 18. When I blow with a trumpet, I and all that are with me, Then blow ye the trumpets also on every side of all the camp, and say, the sword of the Lord and of Gideon. So when I'm in position, when I blow my horn, you guys all blow your horns. And when y'all done blowing your horns, y'all say the sword of the Lord and of Gideon. These are the words you say. Verse 19. So Gideon and the 100 men that were with him came unto the outside of the camp and the beginning of the middle watch. And they had but newly set the watch. And they blew the trumpets and brake the pitchers that were in their hands. So now, all right. So now, this is going down. They blew the trumpets. All right, they blew the trumpets and all that. All right, and the three companies blew their trumpets and brake the pitchers and held the lamps in their left hands. This is verse 20. And the trumpets in their right hands to blow withal. And they cried, the sword of the Lord and of Gideon. So they did exactly what Gideon said. They followed the exact orders that Gideon said to follow. All right. Verse 21. And they stood every man in his place round about the camp, and all the host ran and cried and fled. So when this happened, it completely melted the hearts of the people, and they got up out of there and they fled. Verse 22. And the 300 blew the trumpets, and the Lord set every man's sword against his fellow, even throughout all the host. And the host fled to Beth Shittah and Zareth, and to the border of Abel Mahola, unto Tabah. So this is the location of where these men tried to flee to. Because right now, Gideon and these 300 soldiers are now going to war with the Midianites. Verse 23. And the men of Israel gathered themselves together out of Naphtali, and out of Asher, and out of all Manasseh, and pursued after the Midianites. Like, this is how strong we were as a nation of people. Like, we were men of war. Like, you got to understand that the brothers from Asher, the brothers from Manasseh, Naphtali, understand? Like, these are your South American countries that you would know today. Understand? Like these are your Costa Ricans. These are your Colombians. These are your not Costa Ricans. These are your Cubans. These are your Colombians. These are El Salvadorians. These are your Peruvians. These are your people that are in South America. Those are our brothers and sisters. They just went to war with Midian. All right. Verse 25. And Gideon sent messengers throughout all Mount Ephraim, saying, come down against the Midianites, and take before them the waters unto Beth-barah and Jordan. Then all the men of Ephraim gathered themselves together, and took the waters unto Beth-barah and Jordan. So they sent messengers to Edom and said, hey, come down against the Midianites. So they sent Ephraim, this is the so-called Puerto Ricans, and they told them, hey, go ahead and go against Midian. They're coming your way. Verse 25. And they took two princes of the Midianites. And they took two princes of the Midianites, Oreb and Zeeb. And they slew Oreb upon the rock Oreb. And Zeeb they slew at the winepress of Zeeb. And pursued Midian, and brought the heads of Oreb and Zeeb to Gideon on the other side of Jordan. So the Ephraimites, the so-called Puerto Ricans we know today, they got the hold onto the Midianites, and they took the princes of the Midianites, the two princes of the Midianites of Oreb and Zeeb, right? And they took their heads off. Now let's go back to Psalms chapter 83, verse 3. Let's see what this is about. Let's go forward to Psalms chapter 83, verse 3. Let's see what it's about. Psalm chapter 83. And it says, in verse 9, verse 9, Psalm chapter 83, verse 9. Do unto them as unto the Midianites, as to Sisera, as to Jabin, at the brook of Kasan. All right. So let's say, do unto them as unto the Midianites. So let's skip down to verse 11. Psalm chapter 83, verse 11. Make their nobles like Oreb and like Zeeb. It says, make their nobles like Oreb and make their and like Zeeb. The Lord just said in Psalm chapter 83, verse 11, make their nobles like Oreb and like Zeeb. A noble, right, is a high-ranking person in the nation, like a prince, right? Make their nobles like Oreb and like Zeeb. This is what the Lord. This is what the brother. All right. This is what the brother Asaph is asking the Lord to do to our enemies. This is what the Lord is going to do to our enemies. This is what the brother Asaph, like Asaph or Asaph, is requesting from the Lord to do to our enemies. You understand? And he's requesting this, all right? Hold not thy peace and be not still, O Yahweh. Like he's asking the Most High to do this for us, to our enemies. And in verse 11 it says, make their nobles like Oreb and like Zeeb. So, if I'm asking the Lord, I want you to do to my enemies like you did to the nobles, like Oreb and like Zeeb, what am I asking the Lord to do? I'm asking the Lord to take the heads off of my enemies. Because that's what happened to Zeeb. That's what happened to Oreb. The Ephraimites, when they got their hand on the Midianites, when they got their hands on the Prince Oreb and Prince Zeeb, they slew them. And they brought their heads. Right? They brought their heads. Head 1, head 2. Head Oreb and head Zeeb, and brought their heads unto Gideon and said, job well done. Here you go. We'll get into what chapter 8 talks about. We'll go over chapter 8. Next week on Monday. All right. We're going to continue this. We're going to break down. This is just part 1. There's going to be a part 2 because we're going to talk about Sisera and Jabin. All right. The history of that. It said, make their nobles like Oreb and like Zeeb. Meaning, I'm asking the Lord to cut the heads off of my enemy. Literally and spiritually. I want the heads of my enemies off. I want them off. This is what the brother Asaph or Asaph is asking the Lord to do in Psalm chapter 83. With that, I say Midian, which means to stand. All right. Men of Israel, we're going to give a courage salute to the brothers. Men of Israel, Madam Shabbat, Ahmadium, Barak, Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua Brakatham, Yadim Matah, Saul of Wafian, turn to the sisters. Men of Israel, we're going to give a courage salute to the sisters. Men of Israel, Madam Shabbat, Ahmadium, Barak, Yahweh Shamar Alathan Ba'ashim Yahushua, Yadim Matah. With that, class dismissed.